morning and welcome to Friday. In this, the 5th week of Easter. Our week is ended and we are no doubt all ready for another weekend to rest, relax and renew ourselves. We are also approaching the final week of the season of Easter. And I trust that this season of Easter has been beneficial to you, that you would have had the opportunity to grow somewhat, to discover more about yourself and your relation to the divine, to explore ways in which you have been able to draw closer to God and to the things of God. I want to encourage you to continue during the course of the year constantly seeking new ways of being, new ways of understanding God, constantly seeking opportunity to become clear in your response to the divine invitation to draw closer. So again, I trust that Easter has been all that it could have been for you this year as we go into the final week of this season. Today we continue to journey in our devotions, and we want this morning, as the close of the week, to just reflect on our week, to hold in our hearts all that has taken place during the course of this week. All the experiences you would have had, all the lessons learned. We come into our hearts with gratitude for it all, and we seek to align ourselves in this moment with the flow of grace. Just that sense of resting in the presence of the divine. Coming back to our true self. Discovering that true self that we are. The self before the self we created. The self before the conditioning. The self before all the socializing, and the shaping, and the denying. That eternal self, that self known to God. We come into that space now. And we pray that we may have the courage to live from this space. As we breathe, going more and more into that space, into that awareness, becoming less associated with the world and more associated with the divine and the things of the divine. Becoming more transparent. Allowing the light to shine through more clearly. And day by day, moment by moment. Now, there was a woman who had been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years. And though she had spent all she had on physicians, no one could cure her. She came up behind Jesus and touched the fringe of his clothes. And then immediately her hemorrhage stopped. Then Jesus asked, "Who touched me?" When all denied it, Peter said, "Master, the crowd surround you and press in on you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me. For I noticed that power had gone out from me." When the woman saw that she could not remain hidden. She came trembling, and falling down before him, she declared in the presence of all the people why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. Jesus said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." For some reason, I have always found this passage really powerful. The woman with the hemorrhage, the touching of the garment, and Jesus recognizing someone touched him. I guess for the most part we would kind of dismiss this passage as though it's something for Jesus because of who Jesus is, especially to us. But this passage fits so well with our theme for the week, allowing unhindered light through every facet of being. If you consider Jesus as this agency of light, and he is conscious of that which is passing through him. He's conscious of his inner world. I recall as a youngster doing various experiments, especially with electrostatic work, where there was this dome and there was this electrostatic pulse going on, and wherever you touched or brought your finger close to the dome, you would see your finger attract that pulse, and it would shock you. And the other experiments that you will see using that same concept. And I always think of that when I hear this particular passage read, where you can almost imagine energetically the woman reaching and touching the garment. And because Jesus's vibration or Jesus's presence was so high, and hers, because of her own brokenness, was so low, that which is high flows to that which is low. That which is whole comes towards that which is broken. So Jesus could feel that shift within himself, that energy going out, that grace being focused on a particular point. And it had to do here with intention. The woman perceived, if I can only but touch the hem of his garment, I will be healed. There was an intention. She didn't just brush up against him, but it was an intention. And it was the intention that created the what we may call in other places the potential difference, the difference between the two energy systems. Because she had set an intention to be healed, which spoke to her brokenness, which spoke to her need. And Jesus in his fullness, perceiving the need, flows from fullness to emptiness. He fills her cup. And in filling her, the healing takes place. Because in the place of fullness, there is no brokenness. So the woman's intention sets up this dynamic. So when the others said to him, but there's so many people here and everybody's crowding around. But they were not crowding around with an intention. They didn't have a focal point. They were just rubbing shoulders with Jesus. But this woman had an intention. And she set her intention before she engaged. And it says to us a couple of things. One, it reinforces that whole transparent nature of Jesus, which reflects our own transparent nature if we would do the work of clearing out all the debris and all the blockages, that we too can flow, that we can feel when others connect with us. There are many persons out there who have such experiences. They walk into a room and they can feel the energy of the room. They can feel where people are. Or they can be having a conversation with an individual and feel themselves being drained by the conversation. So it's nothing spectacular or foreign. It's just about our sensitivity. How conscious, how aware are we when it comes to this dimension? And the other part of it is that our light is not for ourselves. Our light is for everyone who needs it. Jesus' fullness was not for Jesus, but it was for everyone who set the intention to draw down on it. We're not here by ourselves or for ourselves. We are part of a whole. And being a part of a whole, we flow from one to the other. Because it is the one grace that serves us all. And so we've got to be mindful of this. So your work, as well as my work, is more about clearing all the debris out of our lives, that we may be able to allow through as much of the divine grace as possible, realizing that the more we allow through, the more others are able to benefit. There are those of us who are extremely sensitive, and we pick up all that's going on around us, and sometimes it's overwhelming. But the thing is, it's not so much about picking up. It is about giving out. Perhaps one of our aspects of work may very well be, rather than seeking to fine-tune our sense or receiving or empathic abilities, to begin focusing on ourselves as a broadcast facilitator. We broadcast the good news of God's grace. We are forever mindful of sending it out or allowing it to flow through us, so that the higher flows towards the lower. Perhaps when we find ourselves overwhelmed by receiving from others and their concerns and their issues, perhaps it is that our focus, our energy is low, and we need to infuse ourselves with God's divine grace to raise us up, so that we are not the recipient of other people's issues, but that we are the agency of God's grace pouring down into those who are broken. There is much brokenness in our world, but we've got to rise above the brokenness if we're going to be able to contribute to the healing. If we go down beneath the brokenness, we become receptors of more brokenness. Not only ours, but other persons as well. So whatever it takes, we must allow ourselves little by little to rise up. And just setting the intention to rise up is enough for us to be given the assistance in rising up, to stand above, so that we become conveyors of grace as opposed to receivers of dread and brokenness and hurt. God calls us to participate in this healing work, but we have to go up. We have to be higher than where the brokenness is, if we are going to be of any help to God. So I pray and I trust that we may remember this dynamic between Jesus and the woman. Jesus, from a high place, pouring forth grace. The woman, from a lowly place, seeking to receive grace, setting the intention to receive. And that was enough. The grace flowed, and the woman was healed. And Jesus could say to her, "Your faith has made you whole." This is fundamental to our response to the teachings of Jesus. We've got, if we are to be as Jesus was, we've got to raise ourselves up. We've got to set the intention, just like the woman set the intention to receive. We've got to set the intention to go higher. I trust you will have a blessed weekend, thinking always of the importance of knowing where you are and being conscious of the need to go higher in every situation, to keep going higher so you can be of help when the time comes.